Hello everybody, my name's Tom, coming at you with another video from Fish Feed TV. Today we're going to talk about my 6 favorite baits to use in the summer. We're going to start off, guys, with a jig. This is my favorite bait to throw in the summer just because it's so versatile and you can do so much with it. This is an Arky head, but here I've got a 1/2 ounce jig. I've got Arky head, mop jigs and everything, okay? And there's just basically 3 main types of trailers that I'll put on here. I've got here a twin tail grub, and this is when I'm fishing like 1 to 5 feet, and this is just more to mimic bluegill and crawfish, because if you stretch these out, it looks a lot like crawfish, but it also looks a lot like a bluegill when you're swimming it, and I'll just give it big hops. But if I'm not fishing on the bank, but more like docks and such, I'll start fishing chigger chunks and more power baitish stuff, you know. And this is a chigger chunk here. I like fishing more chunks as I get down a little deeper. This is that. It's got a lot more it's got a lot of action. It's got scent, so it gives these fish like kind of a little bit more than just the sight factor of it, and it attracts fish really well. Then as I get, this is usually as I'm really deep or if I've got a really murky water. And these are the super chunks from Zoom, and they're like $4. I mean, it's a little steep, but it doesn't really matter for me. I actually really like these. It's just another thing. It's about as big as the jig itself, but it's got some pretty big appendages, lots of vibration. Now, as to what setup I would put that on is actually pretty simple. This is actually a medium heavy 7-foot Denali J2. I've got it rigged up, paired up with a Gander Mountain Elite. It's a 7-3-1, 11 ball bearings. So it's got some nice drag. I mean, when you set the hook, you want to put your thumb on that line so it doesn't slip, and you can get that hook in. But I'll show you the jig setup. I usually always only tie a Palomar knot on jigs because, you know, you're putting a lot of tension on that line. There you go. That's usually what I use. What I have on the back here is the Z-Man Bat Wings, and I absolutely love these things because they just hold on. I put a drop of super glue on all these, but these things are actually worth it because I've gone through about 20 or 30 fish with just this one trailer, and it's just starting to rip up. Here's a really important thing, guys. If you're not fishing like super heavy cover but just docks and stuff, I recommend that you cut a couple of these wire guards down to like right about here so that sticks and stuff can still slip over it, but that there's not as much and it's not as strong, so that these bass, when you set the hook, it's easier for this thing to come down and leave the hook exposed. And it still works fine. I almost never actually get these snagged, even like this. My next favorite summer bait is just an ordinary old wacky rig, and this is usually what people think of what a wacky rig is. They've got here like a little tiny drop shot hook, and they put it on sideways, stuff like that. Yeah, even better is putting it on these little jig heads here. And why? Is because it gives it a lot more action. There's a lot more water going against it. It gives it a lot more shearing. And I've got a couple different sizes. The kind of worms I'll put on that is anything from a Berkley Habit Moneymaker, which I'll use big bite baits. And as you can see here, it's actually just pretty like symmetrical worms. They're just really big worms, so I can throw them out a little deeper. What I'll usually just simply do is throw on knockoff Senkos. These come in an 8-pack. These are the Yum Dingers. I got them for $2.50, 8 of them. And this is exactly what a Senko is. And they got that same undulating thing that the Gary Yamamoto Senkos have going on with them. Big Bite Baits sells 5 of them for $1.50, so go figure. I throw them usually with like 4 or 5 inches, usually 5 inches, because I'm trying to get that little bit bigger bite. What I have my wacky rigs usually set up on is just a Daiwa D-Shock with a paired up with a Daiwa Regal 2000 XIA size spool, because you don't need a lot of line for this. Just 8-pound line. Tie a Palomar knot on that too. Just see, you got a lot of tip in this rod here, but lots of backbone. My next favorite bait, guys, is just a shaky head. Got mostly football heads, but that's about as small as I'll throw on there. I'll even go up to these Damiki swings. And this is 6.5 inches, and I'll show you guys how big this worm is. I'll even get up to this big when I'm throwing this thing. But you know, usually you're matching it up. The greater the depth, the bigger your bait should be. But in murkier, you know, not murkier situations, but when you're wanting a little bit more, you know, bulk, then I use the Damiki Bow Bosses. And these are like pink reddish worms, and these just have a whole lot of bulk and a lot of vibration. And I've caught fish just about everywhere with these here. If the water is really murky, I will still fish a shaky head, and that's what a lot of people stop doing. But I'll actually just screw one of these little paddle tails on here. This is like a Zoom paddle tail, but I'll actually throw these on like shaky heads and stuff, and this thing kicks. And I'll do that if the water's murky, because this is like a black color. I really like to do that, and I'll show you what I have that on. I've got it with 10-pound Suffix line, and what I've got it paired up with is another D-Shock, and this is an original combo. This is a D-Shock, and it's heavy action. It's more like a shaky head rod, you know. Got a nice little tip there, and a nice strong reel. That's what you want. A big reel too, so you can really chuck it out there. Next thing, I'm kind of just gonna group together chatterbaits and a crankbait. We're going to start with the crankbaits real quick. I usually throw these under cloudy conditions or right next to docks where there's tons of shade and tons of cover. And that's usually what I'll do with this. You need to make sure that you have an oval split ring on the front, or else it won't have the same action. I like these because it's really hard. These Strike King XDs, it's really hard to get this hook like on the bill and tangled with the line because it's so far back. And that's what I really like about this bait here. I don't throw them that big necessarily. I'll throw it at, like, this is a little jawbone one, and I'll throw them this small so you can get the idea. I've got smaller ones in different colors. Here's an Extreme Performance one, really small hooks again, but that doesn't really matter. What I like about chatterbaits is that they can represent so much, and these are a lot more versatile than crankbaits, let's say, because they are completely weedless. This thing just deflects cover completely. It's got a lot of action, and this is actually more of a night bait for me, or morning bait too. I'll actually, because you can fish this a range of ways, pop it over cover, so it's basically the same thing, but what I'll do with it is I'll stop it and it'll sink and give it a pop and stuff like that. So this is more when I'm trying more jig and finesse type things, and this is when I'm just burning it through there trying to find a fish. Still some pretty interesting stuff coming from Z-Man, and this is like $4 I think at Dick's. I will show you what rods I actually have these on. Here what I have is my chatterbait setup. It's a 6' 8" Duckett Ghost, and you know, lots of tip, but also lots of backbone, as you can see there. Paired up with a Daiwa Laguna 100P, they'll knock the slack in your line when they hit the thing, and you really want to reel that in as fast as you can. I've got some grips on there to reel faster and not be slipping up. I'll talk about trailers real quick for chatterbaits, which I actually forgot to talk about. I'll throw usually either this, I've got it in black color too for night, but I also have these net bait swim shads. This has so much freaking action, and it's crazy. And here I have my crankbait set up, and this is actually more of like a deep cranking rod, but I'll put medium deep divers on here. I've got this. These both have 12-pound McCoy fishing line on them. It was just the cheap stuff, and I've got a hook bonnet on here because I had one stuck in my hand and one stuck in my wrist, so I put bonnets on them now. But it's like a 7' This is the 100H. It's a Daiwa Ard with a Daiwa Laguna. And now for the last bait that I have here. In the mornings and evenings, you're always probably going to want a topwater. And these aren't exactly night baits. This is definitely not something you want to throw at night because they can't really see it. They'll hear the commotion, and as it goes to the side here like that, this bass is going to strike where it was and not where it is. Even little fish will bite that, and it's pretty crazy, guys. Topwater is pretty self-explanatory. Poppers, buzz baits, spooks, frogs, baits, just about everything, guys. And fish will hit it because in the morning and evenings they're starting to feed and they want to eat it. They don't care what it is, they want to eat it. But that's it, guys. That's what I'll usually use in the summer just to catch fish, and I've got some pretty good success. I want you guys to comment your questions, any video ideas, but I'll really want you guys to subscribe because I've got a lot of good stuff coming for this channel. I'm getting a lot of how-tos. I'm going to come up with some pretty cool projects to show you guys, and I really want you guys to kind of be part of that. Be a lot more videos, I guarantee you. I'm going to get back. I'm just going to start, burning out videos like crazy. I'm going to do organization videos, and I'm getting ADHD right now, but guys, I'm going to start doing lure reviews, stuff like that, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.